Alrighty, it is 2 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the May edition of our 2021 Smart Series. My name is Emily Wenzel, and I am the Director of Events and Programs for the Iowa City Area Business Partnership. This afternoon, we're joined by Wendy Ford and Sarah Gardner from the City of Iowa City and a panel of local business owners to share the benefits of making the switch to LED lighting in your business. We will be recording this session and have it posted on our YouTube page shortly after we finish, in case you're coming in a little bit late or you need to leave early. Before we get to our presentation, there are a few people I would like to thank. The first is our lead sponsor, MediaCom Business. Thank you for your support of this program. I would also like to thank our supporting sponsors, the City of Iowa City, the City of Coralville, BRL Human Resources Consulting, and Terry Lockridge and Dunn. We're very grateful to all of our sponsors for their support of our online programming. Before we get officially started with the presentation, I'd like to share a message from our lead sponsor, MediaCom Business.
What's the measure of success for my business? It's the ability to keep serving my customers, keep evolving, keep succeeding under any circumstances. It's also having the right technology to restructure, reimagine, or reboot my business without slowing down. Fast, secure business Wi-Fi internet from MediaCom Business helps me achieve this, no matter what the future brings to my doors. MediaCom Business makes it easy for small business to do big things.
If you would like to get MediaCom Business in your own organization, you can reach out to Terry Carpenter. His information is currently on the screen. Real quick, go over a couple more Zoom things just in case. Since we are in a webinar format, the Q&A box is down at the bottom of the screen. You can click into that and it'll bring up a window for you to ask any questions that you might have for our panelists, and we will address those at the end. Alrighty. With that, I have our lovely speakers, and I will turn it over to Wendy and Sarah to introduce everybody.
One second here. All right, everybody can hear me okay now? Good. I'm Wendy Ford. I'm the Economic Development Coordinator for going on 15 years at the City of Iowa City. And on behalf of the city, we'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, sponsored in part by the city. Our City Council has been working on climate action goals for several years now and wants to ensure that climate action covers all areas of service in the city. Among other things, they've charged us with doing outreach, education, and providing incentives to encourage climate action. Those goals have created natural partners between economic development and climate action outreach, which is a relatively new city division. Incentives have long been part of economic development, but in this new era, we are working with our climate action colleagues to offer in select industrial and commercial areas, energy efficiency matching grants funded by tax increment financing, or TIF. The three areas include the three industrial areas at Sycamore and First Avenue, Hines Road, and Scott 6, and also the downtown and riverfront crossings area to come. We'll be promoting the downtown program later this year, so keep an eye out for all of those notices. Today's is one of 4 webinars sponsored in part by the city, designed to get people thinking about how to take climate action in their own businesses. The first one we did was in February, and that was about rebates for energy efficiency improvements through Mid-American Energy. Today's webinar, as you know, is about LED lighting, where you might find more savings than you think. In August, on the 10th of August, we're having water management as our topic, from top to bottom, everything from rooftop gardens to permeable pavers. And finally, on November 9th, it'll be all about getting around green, driving and transportation in the climate action age. So we hope you'll be able to attend the remaining sessions. But I'll hand it over to Sarah Gardner now, who's here to tell you more about Iowa City's climate action to date. Sarah is our climate action and outreach engagements specialist. Sarah?
Thanks, Wendy, and thanks to all of you for tuning in today. A reasonable question to ask would very easily be, why are we talking about business lighting or hearing about business lighting from somebody in a climate action office? And I want to tell you a little about how this fits into Iowa City's climate action plans. As you may be aware, the city began looking at climate in a very serious way in the last few years, and that culminated in coming up with a climate action plan. But actually, for many years prior to that, the city had been evaluating its own facilities and looking at ways to increase energy efficiency and make use of clean, renewable energy, among other interventions, as a kind of preparatory stage for developing this plan. And they did that not just to make good use of taxpayer dollars, but also so that we would be able to share lessons learned about things the city had done, such as the financial benefits that we had seen in switching over to LED lighting, as we went out into the community and asked folks to help us move forward on our climate action planning efforts. Now, the plan that we work from was officially adopted in April of 2020, and it's called the Accelerating Iowa City's Climate Actions. As you'll see, it has some fairly ambitious climate action goals, notably to reduce our carbon emissions by 45% by 2030 and to achieve net zero by 2050. I say it's ambitious, and it is. We are an ambitious city. But it's also worth noting that one of the things we learned in the planning process is that this is achievable with just 2% reductions in emissions made year over year. And as it turns out, LED lighting can be a key tool in that toolbox. So why have a climate action plan? There are many reasons. The first, of course, is to help draw down those emissions, but as business owners and operators, you might be interested in some of the other reasons listed in the Climate Action Plan, and these are taken directly from the plan itself. They include leading by example, building a strong local economy, creating job opportunities, reducing costs for residents and businesses, and ensuring a high quality of life. Which is to say, the plan isn't just saying we're reducing emissions for emissions' sake, but we're doing it with some very clear goals in mind that include attracting and retaining a 21st century workforce and ensuring there's a good long-term business climate for all the businesses operating in Iowa City. Now, part of that plan involves the TIF-funded energy efficiency program that you heard Wendy talk about just before I got on. But that actually is just one of the ways that we look to support businesses as we move forward in these initiatives. Others include our Climate Action at Work Award program, which recognizes businesses that have been taking steps to reduce their own energy usage and become more climate ready. We have applications that will be opening for that in the fall, and we're very excited to feature 5 local businesses last year for their efforts. The TIF-funded energy efficiency grants Wendy mentioned. There's in the plan calls for launching an eco-driving campaign, so working with employers to figure out how we can help support alternative transportation or teleworking or even carpooling to and from your business for employees. There are things noted in the plan talking about increasing tree planting, including in parking lots, and there are climate action grants. The grant program just concluded its application window last month, and we were able to provide more than or up to $60,000 in grants to local businesses and initiatives working on a number of these things. The important thing to know about the climate action grants is just to say that we're not out there saying, you know, we would like you to take these actions and then seeing what you come up with. If you are hearing that list and saying, great, I would really like to plant some trees in my parking lot, I would encourage you next year when the Climate Action Grant Program opens again for applications to submit an application to help allow us to help you take that initiative. As you can see, you have contact information here from Wendy and myself if you have any questions about these programs. But really, the stars of the show today are the folks who are going to come up after us, including Jason Prochaska from Sitler LED Supplies, which will be leading off the discussion, and also Pete Vanderhoef and Karen Kubby, who are representing some local downtown businesses. I have to say, this whole presentation was actually inspired by a conversation that I had had with Pete Vanderhoef at Iowa Book last year, where he told me in a rather offhand way that when he switched LED lighting, it brought down his air conditioning bill in the summer. And that is not something I had ever considered before. So I thought we should have a bigger conversation about this. I mentioned this as a way of saying, if you have been doing things at your business that have made a positive difference, not just for the climate, but for your business operations, we would love to hear about them and celebrate those successes and help get the word out. So that being said, I'm going to turn the floor over to Jason Prochaska, and he's going to tell us a bit about some of the LED options that are available here in Iowa City.
All right, thanks, Sarah. I appreciate the introduction. Again, my name is Jason Prochaska. I'm the owner of Sitler's LED Supplies. We are located in Washington, Iowa. A little background on our company. We've kind of how we got into the LED lighting market. We started out 44 years ago in the late 1970s, doing specifically specialty lighting, photography, theatrical, medical, in the audiovisual market. And that's kind of what sustained us for the first 35 years of our existence. And around 7 or 8 years ago, we got a local farmer brought in an LED light, and that was the first one we'd seen in action, so to speak. So after that point, we kind of pivoted and moved specifically into LED lighting, and that's kind of where we're at today. So the way we do that is we have a variety of products. People often ask me, what type of lighting do you sell? Do you sell this type of light, that type of light in different areas of their home or their business? And the answer is always going to be yes. We have those types of lights. So we have a variety of products that we can utilize. We have over 100 manufacturers that we deal with. And the way we go to market is partnering up with local electricians. So if somebody has a public building, a business, a restaurant, any type of location, we partner up with either an electrician that they've previously worked with or one that is in our partner network, so we can provide a turnkey solution. So not only offering different products, but finding somebody to install it, which is obviously in this day and age very important. Basically, what we do when we talk about commercial lighting, so a lot of the people on this webinar, I'm assuming, are going to be business owners. So that's basically a main component of what we do. The way we go about that is called a lighting audit. So we'll come into your location, we'll evaluate what you have for your existing lighting. We'll ask you some questions. We'll try to get kind of goals that you have. Each customer is going to be a little different in that aspect. So we kind of pinpoint what your goals are, check out what your current setup is, and then we'll design a solution for you. And then, of course, use those installation partners to do the install. One of the things that often comes up in questions and conversations we have with customers, specifically business customers, is about rebates. So obviously, one of the reasons why we're on this webinar is because the city of Iowa City has some grant money out there. Mid-American Energy, as well as the other utilities around, also have very aggressive rebates available that pay up to 50% of the project for LED lighting. So that's definitely something that people want to take advantage of before those utilities decide to do away with that. And the last point on this particular slide that I like to touch on real quick is we like to partner up with other people in the energy efficiency space. One of the things that we do is we partner up with a local solar provider, and the idea behind that is that whether it's LED lighting, whether it's your HVAC, your building insulation, you want to, if you're going to go into the solar and are interested in adding renewable energies like solar, you want to get as efficient as possible first before you decide to go with solar. So that's kind of where LED lighting and other efficiencies can play into that market. So an idea of who we've helped in the past. There was a slide we were going to include on this that I ironically enough took out. We have over 100 both education and mainly commercial customers that we've helped in the Iowa City area, which kind of opened our eyes to over the past 7 to 8 years how many people we've actually helped in the Iowa City and surrounding areas. So chances are that if we were to put up the list, even though it'd be small font, that you'd actually recognize some of the people that are on that list, so you can get an idea of what the LED lighting looks like in their environment. But we get into all the areas on this list. The industrial market, the office and retail are obviously a key. And being in the state of Iowa, agriculture has been a huge area for us as well. So we do a lot of the swine and poultry facilities and use LED lighting to increase the light levels in those locations. This is an example of kind of what we would propose to a business owner to look at. So the idea behind this is through the lighting audit, through the discussions with our customers, we decide what their goals are, and then we use their utility bill, the rebates, and the financial impact of the cost savings that LED provides to try to give them a snapshot, so to speak, of what their payback periods are, what the rebate's going to be, what the net cost is, and then try to come up with some type of tangible return on investment so they can make a business decision based on that. These last few slides, what we decided to do is kind of show you a little bit visually. You know, lighting is not only cost savings, cost effective, and energy efficient, but it has so many different benefits that until you switch to LED lighting, you don't see. So what we show here is a before and after pictures of a school gymnasium. You can notice that the yellow there is the traditional high pressure sodium or metal halide type of lighting, and then when you put the LED lighting in, it has a nice white crisp color. The same thing with the service area of an auto dealership. People that are in that type of industry a lot of times have to use task lighting. The lighting isn't very convenient for them when they're trying to work on the cars, so the LED lighting can easily help with that. Another picture here of an auto showroom that we did that turned out very well. And then the one there on the right is a warehouse. So you'll notice that a lot of times they'll have kind of dingy, you know, when you walk into that to a warehouse, not only can't they see the part numbers on some of their boxes, but when you switch to the LED lighting, it becomes a lot more clear. People are driving around forklifts that in the past, they have some safety concerns because their lighting levels aren't sufficient. So that's a definite advantage as far as safety goes. The one there on the left is one of my favorites. This is a school library. You'll notice the picture on the right of that of the left-hand picture is a before picture of what it looked like with fluorescent lighting. A lot of times with fluorescence, you get that yellow type look to it, and then the left-hand picture there shows the bright white environment of LED lighting. Pete will like the one on there on the right. That's when it says retail store. That's Iowa Book and Supply. That was an after picture of some of their displays. What we find in that environment, and Pete can talk to that, is with clothing, a lot of times the fluorescents are in the UV light that they emit are pretty hard on clothes. So the LED lighting does not put out that UV, so it has no color fading. It doesn't get as hot, so you don't have some display products getting damaged and unsellable. So that was a neat picture there as well. Another one there on the left is a neat, you know, we talk about retail and antiques. We did a recent project there with an antique location, and even though the products in there are old, so to speak, since they're antiques, you definitely want them still to be clear and look good. So we replaced, you can see a lot on that left-hand picture, a lot of the discolored and mismatched fluorescence, and then the right-hand picture is the LEDs. And then even though it's very product specific, we've got into athletic field lighting. So that would include This is a picture of a football field that we lit up in northeast part of Iowa. We also do football, baseball, track facilities. Recently, we've gotten involved in pickleball locations. So that's kind of an up and coming athletic endeavor that we're getting into as far as the lighting goes. And one of our last slides here is another good example of a retail before and after picture. You'll notice that on the left there is more of a kind of a gloomy yellowish fluorescent, and then the right picture is a very bright white light. So a few different examples. The last one here is a parking garage and then a manufacturing facility. So the idea of these slides is kind of to give you an idea of what the before and after pictures look like, and then the various markets that we serve. A few more here. It looks like we have an agricultural and so we'd be remiss if we didn't include some grain buildings here, being in Iowa. And then there on the right, we have an athletic club, which with the advent of COVID and whatnot, we found that a lot of the athletic clubs and specifically the last 3 or 4 months have really kind of ramped up and are looking for lighting help as well. So with that, that's our contact information, and hopefully some people come up with some good questions after Sarah and Pete get going, but we'll conclude our presentation there.
So I think next up, we'll turn the floor over to Pete Vanderhoef of Iowa Book, followed by Karen Kubby of Beadology.
Pete, you're muted.
Is that better? Okay. In the fall of 2014, we decided to go with solar panels on top of our building of Iowa Book, and Sitlers came in real fast and said, well, you can't do one without the other. So we literally put in 1,000 LED bulbs, and there were some benefits to that. Number one, as Jason said, there was a rebate of like 50% on the bulbs for us, which we very much appreciated. We've got 14-foot ceilings. The picture that Jason showed, I think it was in our basement, but the upstairs has 14-foot ceilings, and it's a challenge to replace light bulbs in that. And usually you don't know you need to replace them until the darn store is open, which means you got customers running around, and it's a pain. Well, with LEDs, their lifespan is way better than the old bulbs. And one of the really big benefits that we experienced was the fluorescent bulbs. They're hot like a light bulb. Like way back, somebody said that light is equal to heat, and we didn't realize how much. Now everybody knows a bulb is hot when it's on. Well, LEDs are not hot, and to put LEDs in, we had to replace ballasts. So Sitler showed us how to rewire our ceiling fixtures, and we literally did all that ourselves. But we had to cut the ballasts out, and I didn't realize how hot those ballasts got. I'm holding one up here. I don't know if you can see it. This ballast, the thing in the front of it used to be white, and it looks like a piece of toast that's been overcooked right now. It's very brittle. Of course, it's quite old, but still, it did produce a tremendous amount of heat on top of what the bulbs did. And at one time, before Yonkers moved to the downtown mall, or I don't know what we call it now, but anyway, Don Crum told me that he didn't turn the heat on in the Yonkers building that was located on Washington Street until like February. And I said, how'd you do that? He says the fluorescent bulbs heated the building. So in the summertime, there's quite a cost savings because you're not having to cool the lighting fixtures. And I could go on longer than this on the solar panels, but that's another one. So I'll stop here.
Thanks, Pete.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Karen Covey. I'm co-owner of Beadology, Iowa. And my family was one where we had a dad who was always running behind us, turning off light bulbs, turning off the lights when we left a room, and always trying to use resources very efficiently. My dad was an Army engineer. And so throughout my life, I've always taken that on, in whatever job I was in or in my own life, trying to figure out how to use fewer resources to get my job done or to get my life the way I wanted it. And at the store, it's no difference. And so we're always looking at different ways to be more efficient. And a lot of times when you're more efficient, it's also a cost savings. And so we've done 2 different LED projects. The first was in 2006, where I have a quite extensive retail floor that I need lit. I don't want it bright white and sterile like a hospital, but I don't want it too warm because people need to be able to see the details of the jewelry or of the products they're using to create jewelry. And so we have quite a bit of overhead lighting. And we started changing to LED bulbs as the bulbs burnt out. And one of the frustrations for us was that I couldn't afford to buy all the bulbs at once in bulk. And when I was buying the bulbs individually, the kind of bulbs, LED bulbs that I could find locally were not on the list of Mid-American for rebates. And I finally got them all changed out. And in some ways, I didn't really even need the rebates because I had a 3-month payback period on that overhead lighting. And to me, there's no smarter, easier way to not only reduce your carbon footprint, but to also have cost savings for your business that you can invest in other larger cost saving programs and energy efficiency programs, or increasing staff wages and investing in inventory. There's all kinds, we have endless ways to spend money that we save on these kinds of efficiencies. So we ended up saving about $2,400 a year just from our overhead lighting project. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I had a light that wasn't working properly, so I assumed that the bulb was out. So I get up there and I always put the date of the bulb that I put the bulb in just for yucks to kind of like see how long does this LED bulb last. And the date on that bulb was 2016. And it wasn't the bulb because I put it in a different fixture. It wasn't the bulb that was out, it was my fixture that was not working properly. So one of the downsides that we have found with the LED lighting, and it's the only one, is that we used to get up to the lighting to change a bulb and we would dust extensively up there and clean. Well, now we're hardly ever needing to change a bulb, so we're not getting up there to clean. So we need to schedule that in our cleaning housekeeping checklist. But in terms of a turnaround, a 3-month turnaround time is just incredible and pretty much can't be beat with any kind of business or home investment. In 2021, we were happy to receive a climate action grant from the city of Iowa City to change all our linear bulbs. We had 70 bulbs from basement to the retail floor and in our office and our bead lab. And we were going with a company that I was going to get them through the mail. I never got them. It was a big mess. And I was so happy to find Sitlers because Jason kind of outlined the process that they use. And I can attest that it actually happens that way. It was really great. We had someone come in and do an audit, made some suggestions for us of what we might do differently. Some of my goals, besides wanting to have more energy efficient light bulbs was to have consistent lighting. And he showed some pictures actually of some places. We had that same thing where some of our light was 3100, some of it was 41. So it was kind of yellow over here and white over here. And for us, having a consistent look was really important for the aesthetics and the functionality of our space. And so Sitler came in, worked on all the ballasts, put all the bulbs in, and we've been very happy with that. Instead of me doing everything, it was really efficient. They took care of disposal of my fluorescent bulbs, and they are taking care of the rebate paperwork. So not only was this easy for us to implement, it was great customer service, and I don't yet know what that cost savings is or what that turnaround time for that investment is for the payback. But we will be tracking that and hope I can report back at a later date the good results from this second project. So for any business person or anyone at home, it's an easy way to reduce your carbon footprint and save money.
Great, thank you, Karen. Emily, you are muted.
Oh, I wasn't quite talking yet, but all right. I wasn't sure if you guys had something else or if we were ready to move into questions. But it looks like we're ready for questions. So we'll see if any of our attendees have any that they want to put in the Q&A box, again, down at the bottom. I have a couple just while I've been listening to you guys. One of the first ones for the retail locations, have you guys noticed if it affects the customer experience for people coming in, if maybe your sales have changed a little more because people can see things better in the bead lab or something to that effect?
So in our bead lab, the lighting is brighter, and it is really great for teaching because people are looking at very small things and projected up on a large television screen. And so people have said that it's easier to see what's going on. And on the retail floor, certainly we used to always bring out a battery operated LED light to show people details, because sometimes they're looking for a very specific shade of blue to match something else. And we have not had to do that as often with that project we did in 2016. So it's been a great help to our customers.
That's great. Kate, have you noticed anything?
We haven't noticed that much. We went from a 4-bulb dropper to a 3-bulb dropper, though, and fewer bulbs with the same light intensity. Actually, if you were to use an old camera, you wouldn't need a flash attachment. I know the cameras now and the cell phones are actually superior to most cameras before the digital showed up, but we've kept the store very bright, and that's fairly important, especially if you're selling books, and it also helps when you sell garments because they want to see colors.
All righty, thank you both for sharing that one. Another question that we have for Sitlers is, do you guys have any data on like an average amount that your customers save month over month once you help them switch?
Yeah, it's kind of a hard question, but the average savings that we're going to run into as far as the electrical from lighting only is right around 50 to 70%. So you can replace a 32-watt LED, I'm sorry, 32-watt fluorescent with a 12, 15, or 18-watt LED solution. So how much they're going to save is obviously going to depend on runtime, how long their lights are on, things like that. But normally, what we found in either an office or even a retail setting, with all things considered, they can expect their utility bill to go down somewhere around 25 to 30% in total.
That's awesome.
And this might be a good time for me to jump in and say that with our industrial area matching grants that we have, we've had several people apply for installation of solar panels. And while that's certainly eligible for our program, we've been encouraging folks to look at other energy efficiency measures, including changing out to LED lighting. Because if you change out to LED lighting, your electrical need goes way down, and thus the solar installation to support that goes down as well. So there's kind of a nice cascading effect with solar. If anybody was considering both, by all means, look at other energy efficiency measures before looking at installing solar.
All right.
Let me add just 2 cents here. Jason mentioned it, Karen mentioned it, but specifically the help you get filling out the forms for the rebates. In our case, Sitlers did that for us with the bulbs, and Moxie Solar did it for the solar panels. That is a big boost because those documents are slightly complicated for the layperson, and I don't know about everybody around here, but you probably only do them once in a row.
Thank you for sharing that. It's a good plug. The next question that we have is actually for Sarah. Since we mentioned the Climate Action Grant and the larger Climate Action Plan, where can people find those?
Well, the Climate Action Grant information can be found on the city's website at icgov.org/climateactiongrants. So you can, even though the application window is just closed, you can read up about the application process, and you can learn about some of the projects that have been awarded in the past, which can be useful as you're thinking ahead to grant applications. I'd like to think our grant application is not as complicated as a rebate application, but I know for the layperson, having that familiarity going in does help. And our climate action plan and other parts of the plan can all be found on the Climate Action website. If you go just to the city's own website, icgov.org, and look in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see Climate Action is listed up there. If you click on it, it'll take you to, we have a number of pages. I was hoping I could follow up with a question of my own, though it might make you all laugh. One of the things that caught my eye in Jason's slide, speaking as someone who just has started on spring cleaning and has been cleaning out some light fixtures, I noticed there was a little line in your slide saying that bugs are not attracted to LEDs, which I had never thought about before. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so it kind of plays in a little bit what Pete was talking about. A lot of the bugs, there's a UV spectrum that they're attracted to. So you'll see a lot of bugs in fluorescent fixtures. And then for whatever reason, they're also attracted to the heat aspect of it. So when you have a combination of no UV and less heat, we're not going to sit here and tell you there's not going to be any bugs in there, because over time, they're going to get into the fixtures. But my prime example of this, it was years ago. Ironically enough, we're at the Johnson County Fair, and we had a display inside, and we had fluorescent, like a 6-lamp fluorescent fixture right next to a 6-lamp LED, so we could explain the differences. And they were fairly close to each other in the same area. And by the 6th or 7th hour that we're there was a ton of bugs in the fluorescent fixture buzzing around and in the fixture itself. And in the LED, there were very few. So I can't give you all the reasons why that, because I'm not a bug expert necessarily, but I know the UV and the heat are a big part of why LEDs have less interaction with bugs. So
that's good to know. I noticed that line as well, which was a pretty attractive proposition for me.
Maybe that's the trade-off for Karen, dusting less. When you get up there, there will also be fewer insects to dust out of those fixtures. It sounds silly, but that is a selling point to me. Like, that's really nice. I feel like LEDs are this way, that it just seems like such a simple thing, lighting, but every time I am in a conversation about LEDs, I learn more about them, like the fact that they don't attract bugs or that they don't cause fading on clothing in retail spaces. I just think that's all very fascinating.
Alrighty, well, I am not seeing any other questions come through. Unless our panelists have any more for each other, I will pull up just my last few slides here to share. As we've mentioned, this is part of a series. We do one of these on the second Tuesday at 2 p.m. every month. Next month on the 8th, we'll be hosting a panel with some local nonprofits to share how, if your business has a pet cause, what's the best way that you can represent them out in the community. If you'd like to register for that, you can go to our website, iowacity.area.com, click on the events tab. I do want to make sure to thank our sponsors one more time, our lead sponsor, MediaCom Business, and our supporting sponsors, the City of Iowa City, City of Coralville, BRL Human Resources Consulting, and Terry Lockridge and Dunn. Thank you all for coming. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.